But the barbarism continues in Ukraine, even though it is already barbarism directed, in a sense, at themselves. On June 6th, the birthday of the great world-class poet and writer Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin. On this very day when Russian Language Day is traditionally celebrated, let me remind you again, not belonging exclusively to us, not being solely our heritage. This is a world language, a civilizational language, the language of the United Nations. For the Kiev regime, which has declared war on everything connected with Russia, and first and foremost on the Russian language, Pushkin is a personal enemy, and June 6th is not a holiday or a significant day for them. I say again, it is a significant day for the whole world, but not for the Kiev regime. Monuments to the great poet in Ukraine are being destroyed with maniacal methodicalness. They did not even spare the monument in Odessa. And why exactly should they not have destroyed it? Because it is located within the boundaries of a UNESCO World Heritage Site and erected at the end of the 19th century using the funds of the city's residents. Because on that monument, for all these decades and centuries, there was an inscription to Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin from the citizens of Odessa. No, the Kiev regime is not only depriving the residents of Odessa of the monument, it is depriving them of citizenship, of civic position, of the understanding of what a citizen is. This very understanding of what a citizen is, it robs them of historical memory, it robs them of conscience. Unless, of course, there is an antidote, at least internal resistance, at least in understanding that this is a real, genuine act of 21st century barbarism. Under the banner of de-Pushkinization, a fight is being waged against culture, the Russian language and literature, historical memory, and civilizational heritage. On June 1st, the Odessa court banned the organization Ismail Pushkin Community. That is its exact name, the Ismail Pushkin Society. This organization was engaged in studying the works of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin. That was their only crime. They did not study Russian culture, or Slavic culture for that matter, by the way. Additionally, there was the Club of Young Pushkinists for school children operating within the organization. Since when and why did this become illegal? The organization existed for 29 years. Can it really be labeled, as Zelensky once put it, with some sort of communization, communist ideology, or Soviet times? Or have they now even gone so far as to talk about some kind of Russian imperialism? No, 29 years. That is already our contemporary era. That is the so-called New Ukraine, which independently and voluntarily created such an organization. But the SBU saw a threat, as they said, to national security in studying the legacy of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin. On June 2nd, the Poltava City Council introduced a ban on the containment of materials in the Russian language in the city. What is meant is that what caused this absolute frenzy was not something related to the content, but the fact that it was related to the Russian language. It is about the ban on the public use of Russian language films, musical works, books, and theatrical performances. This was reported by, well, the already infamous Sprechenführer, Elena Ivanovskaya. She had previously stated that such bans apply only to Russian products, but do not affect, as she put it, content in the Russian language produced in Ukraine. According to Ivanovskaya's idea, one must pay for using the Russian language. She proposes a tenfold increase in fines for violating language legislation. As reported by the media, a corresponding proposal has already been submitted to the Ukrainian parliament. What is the next step? Apparently, it will be fines for thoughts in the Russian language. In his immortal works, Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin extolled the ideals of love, friendship, honor, loyalty to duty and to the fatherland, and, by the way, genuine freedom. These values, as we can see, do not align with the policies of the Zelensky party, a party that has usurped power and transformed into a genuine Kiev junta. They have different guiding principles. For example, even Mazepa, who in modern Ukraine has been elevated to the rank of national hero on par with Nazis, Banderas, Shukhevics, Melniks, Petliuras, and so on. Pushkin wrote about this differently. In the immortal poem Poltava, there are these lines, I already quoted them once, but I will repeat, that he loves nothing, that he is ready to shed blood like water, that he despises freedom, that there is no fatherland for him. This was said about the traitor Mazepa. This is precisely how Pushkin characterized him. And it is to him, no, not to Pushkin, but to Mazepa, that Ukrainian nationalists now bow. And they want to rebury his ashes in the so-called pantheon of prominent Ukrainians. But what has been said can also be applied to representatives of the current Zelensky regime, who, to please their Western masters, are ready to shed the blood of ordinary Ukrainians as if it were water, who are ready to renounce their history, their faith, their native language, and who have lost the very concept of a fatherland. Therefore, it is important for the usurpers to erase all memory of the great poet, his heritage, and his creative work, so that people, when studying him, do not draw parallels that are so dangerous for the Kiev regime, which suggest themselves. Russian-speaking Kievans unequivocally express their attitude toward the discriminatory policy of the Kiev authorities to eradicate everything Russian. On behalf of millions of their compatriots in their native language, they posted a video greeting on social networks for the Day of the Russian Language and called on Bankova to stop destroying Russian citizens of Ukraine. There could be no other reaction. Personally, I have a small question for UNESCO. Tell me, please, the destruction of yet another monument to Pushkin, the mockery of the Russian language, isn't this the direct responsibility of that very organization that exists, in part, on the money of our country, and that has always historically received support from our country? And what do we get in return? Where is at least some reaction from UNESCO? Our permanent mission in Paris will, without a doubt, remind the UNESCO Secretariat of its direct obligation to respond to such things, and not just respond, but to work in this direction.